Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today I give you another 10 fantastic movies to check out right now on Hulu. Alright guys, so for anyone not familiar with this channel, once a week on Fridays, I go and I do a deep dive on one of the popular streaming platforms and find 10 movies to recommend that you guys check out. Sometimes I stray a little bit over to the action, sometimes a little bit more to sci-fi, but for the most part, I try to keep it into horror. And if you could do me a favor before we get to this list and hit that like button, because that really helps this channel out so much you have no idea. And with that, let's get to the list. Alright, so kicking this list off is a fairly new movie called Shadow in the Clouds. So Shadow in the Clouds is the movie I actually did a full review on, so if you want to check that out, it's right up here. But it stars Chloe Grace Moretz, and she's awesome in this like usual. So I did have some issues with this movie when it first came out, but I still find some charm in it, and I think it's still worth a watch, especially for fans of creature features. It does have some issues with it, which you will see, and I'm sure they will get to you a little bit, but for the most part, beyond the silly things that happen as far as the story goes, if you just want to watch something that's a dumb creature feature with explosions and excitement and intense this and that, it is fun. Like I said, it's worth a watch, but don't expect to get like some amazing, all-time, awesome kind of creature feature movie. But if you're just going into it expecting a fun little stupid movie, definitely enjoy it and check it out.
Strap in.
Yes, ma'am.
Next up is Clovehitch Killer.
How come Dad doesn't have to help with couponing?
Because your father has his own hobbies.
So Clovehitch Killer is a damn good movie. This is a more of a slow-paced, slow burn type of movie, but it gets very intense and very disturbing. It's one of those movies that as the movie unfolds, the intensity level goes up and keeps going up, and it gets to that boiling point towards the end. But it has to do with serial killer situation. Basically, this guy, this teenager, thinks that his dad is possibly a serial killer, and his uncle is involved in some way, and he doesn't know what's true or what's not, and everything unfolds, and there's some twists and turns as it kind of snakes through. But it is a very good movie, especially for people who enjoy true crime type of stuff. It's a movie I'm just a big fan of, and I do highly recommend you guys give this a look.
Where are we going?
Almost there, bud.
Next up is a movie I just recently discovered, and that is a movie called Trick. So this is a movie that would be perfect for Halloween, but since I just discovered it because my horror pack last month sent me a copy of it, so I was like, hey, what the hell, I'll check it out. I was so surprised and excited on how much I actually enjoyed this movie. It is a great little Halloween kind of movie. This movie fits perfectly in there with movies like Hatchet and Friday the 13th. If you're a fan of those movies, I think you will definitely enjoy this. But it's really just a solid slasher with a lot of the same slasher tropes you're familiar with. So don't go into it expecting it to reinvent the wheel. But it does have a lot of fun Halloween splattered all over it. And if you're a fan of Halloween, and if you're a fan of slasher movies, and if you haven't heard of this movie, I highly recommend you check it out.
But this is just pure evil.
Next up is a dark little comedy called 12-Hour Shift.
I'm very dizzy. I need to talk to a doctor right away.
I just got here and I'm about to work a double.
So I heard about this movie from watching the Dead Meat podcast. Those guys are amazing. I'm a huge fan of Dead Meat. If you've never checked out Dead Meat and you're a horror fan, you're missing out. So definitely check out the Dead Meat YouTube. They're the biggest horror entity really there is in the world right now. So you probably heard of them, but if you haven't, definitely check them out. But anyway, back to what we're talking about, and that's this fun little comedy, dark comedy, 12-Hour Shift. So it's basically about these two nurses who are involved in these dirty dealings, selling these human organs they get from basically people who've just died. They don't necessarily kill people per se, but they are pushing them over the edge at least a little and definitely harvesting those organs to sell. And things just get creepy and sideways when they bring in this convict, and lots of stuff unfolds. Don't want to give anything away. It's a very funny movie, but in a very dark comedy type of way. So you gotta be thick-skinned. You gotta enjoy that kind of humor, basically horror humor. If you're into gory, bloody type of human body part humor, then I think you will definitely enjoy this. And it's just all in all a great bit of fun. So definitely check it out.
Why would you bring this cousin of yours into this if you knew she would kill people?
I sometimes have too much faith in humanity.
That is what I like about you.
Next up, Brightburn.
Who am I? You are a gift. I know it's been difficult for you lately that you feel different from other kids. You are different.
So this is a very polarizing movie. I've heard a lot of people that absolutely love it and are big fans of it, and then other people who absolutely despise it and hate it and really wish it would just go away. I fall somewhere in the middle. I really enjoyed it, but I felt like it could have done a lot better with this premise. I still would love to see someone really grab a hold of that comic book meets horror and just really lean into it. This didn't quite go there, but I did feel it went there enough, and I did enjoy it in a lot of ways. It does have a lot of brutal kills, a lot of gore. It does have some very intense and scary moments. It does look really, really good, but for what this movie was working with on such a small budget, the way they were able to pull off special effects and just the overall scenes in general, it's just really well done and enjoyable. Even if this movie isn't perfect, and even if you do think they could have done better with this overall concept, I still think it is worth watching, and I do still think it is a good little movie. Next up is a movie I recently discovered, and I'm a huge fan of it, and it's called Sea Fever.
What is your work while you're on board?
I identify and extrapolate patterns from variations in deep sea behavior.
So Sea Fever just feels creepy the whole run time. There is a kind of early on scene that gets gory and very uncomfortable that has to do with the eye, and from that moment forward, it just never feels right. This movie is never really over the top in the way of creepiness. It's just kind of always there, and it just leaves you with like feeling like there's something tickling your asshole. I can't explain it in any other way, but it leaves you with never being able to be comfortable. And there's just always this feeling of something's not right and things are going to get worse, and it slowly builds. It never really quickly happens. It just slowly builds into this feeling of absolute dread. The basic concept of this movie is a small little boat crew is out in the ocean and they stall out and they're basically stranded and stuck way deep out in the ocean. And then they discover why they're stalled out, because there's some organism on the bottom of this boat. And as they slowly start to figure out what this organism is, things start to unfold into an absolutely terrifying and very slow burn, but very fun little creature feature that I highly recommend. All right, next up we go to The Collection. So The Collection is the sequel to the film Collector. And The Collector is one of my favorite from the last 10 years horror icon, horror movies. It goes up there with Terrifier, in my opinion, as one of the more original, unique, and yet really disturbingly fun horror movie icons. It goes up there with some of my favorite franchises, although it's not quite a franchise because there is only 2 movies. We were supposed to get a third this year, but I guess funds and everything have kind of stalled out on that. So who knows when or if we will ever get the Collected, is what the third was supposed to be called. But don't let that stop you from enjoying what we do have. The Collector is brilliant, but so is the sequel, The Collection. And this movie, from the beginning to the absolute end, is horrifying. Just the overall design, it has flavors of Saw and flavors of Hostel, but yet it's cool and fresh and new in so many different ways. This is just a great watch for any fans of horror, so definitely check it out.
Get out of there!
Next up is an A24 movie called Saint Maud.
It takes nothing special to mop up after the dying.
You're prettier than the last one.
But to save a soul, that's quite something. Bless Amanda's body and bless her mind, which is shrouded in darkness.
So there's been a lot of hype and a long wait for this movie to finally get here in the States and to be somewhere streaming that was fairly accessible. So I was able to finally check it out when it dropped onto Hulu. So as much as this is a quality movie in every way you can imagine, everything from the directing to the beautiful way it was shot to the intense, powerful acting, everything, I am not a huge fan of this movie. But I do still highly recommend it because, like I said, this is an extremely well done piece of film. The reason I am not a huge fan of this is because it is extremely bleak and extremely dark and is very depressing by the end. And I know that's not for everyone, and that's not really my cup of tea, but that should not stop you from checking it out, because if you're a fan of artistically created movies that are very intense with powerful dialogue and slow burn and all of that, then you will probably love this movie. I know most people that love A24 are really into that kind of stuff, and so I definitely recommend this movie if you're a fan of the overall movies you see for the most part of A24. It is important for you to keep in mind how much of a slow burn movie this is. So if you're someone that needs action, this is not your thing. But if you enjoy slow burn movies with dread that just slowly builds until it feels like it's suffocating you, then definitely check this out, because this does that as well as any movie I've seen recently pull it off.
This is life and death on another level. What if I'm getting it all wrong? All the good girls go to hell.
All right, and last up on this list is one I've recommended before, and I'm just recommending it because it's one of my favorite creature features from the last few years, and that is the movie Crawl.
We won't be able to come for you.
Dad?
If you're a fan of just fun, exciting, intense creature features that don't have a ton of story and are really just about a cat and mouse with a big monster basically chasing a poor person and just that struggle, then you definitely love Crawl. I know a lot of people have already seen it, but this is also a movie that's just fun to rewatch. The basic premise of this is a woman finds out that her father may be stuck in his house and a hurricane's about to hit. So she goes to his house to try to get him out of there, make sure he's okay, and then alligators. Enough said. Big, giant, crazy alligator and craziness, intensity, action, drama, creature feature ensues. So do yourself a favor, have some fun with this, grab some popcorn, and enjoy Crawl.
Come on, you son of a bitch!
Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Please leave your comments down below. Any recommendations for movies are always appreciated. And if you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this at least 2 times every week, I also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons, because your support means so much to me. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.